The next set of geometry we're going to create is the steps along the right hand side. This is also another example of doing some 2D sketching with some lines using the probe as the input. Here the nice thing is we're doing automatic compensation. We're doing a bunch of lines very quickly, or capturing a bunch of edges very quickly using the probe. And then we'll be able to step back again and use the SolidWorks tools to trim up that geometry to create some closed profiles. The thing that's nice about working in this environment is you're always inside of SolidWorks, because Dezignworks is a fully integrated gold solution product. And we never have to leave the environment. We're not doing anything outside of SolidWorks. Again, showing some of the level of integration, we're doing a cut and we're able to use the contour select, which is right inside of the Dezignworks cut tool off the Dezignworks toolbar. Now, just like the lock surface where we're able to capture a cross-section of information, here we're going to do a lock plane. We're going to use it in a way that is a bit unique to this type of application. First, we're going to get a location for the cone that's sticking up off the top of the surface, again using construction, because we're just going to use the location of the center point of that circle. And we're going to offset a plane up to that center point, and that plane is going to become our lock plane that we're going to take a cross-section through. So here we're using a standard SolidWorks function of the offset plane tool and picking a point for that plane to offset to. And now we'll pick our lock plane and we'll change our orientation so you actually can see the probe move through that plane, and every time it does you'll see the point get picked up. We also don't have the sound on the arm on for this particular video, but every time the probe passes the plane, you'd actually get an audible indication as well, so that you know that you've gone through that plane as you're scanning. This time, instead of doing splines, we actually just did points. So these points can be used to draw through. So these points are actually locational information here. So we're going to go ahead and just draw some standard SolidWorks lines in conjunction with the points that we created with our point tool. What we'll be able to do then is use this to actually get a cross section through this circular shape. Inside of Dezignworks, sometimes you don't automatically comp, and so here what we're doing is we're actually doing our comp for ourselves by offsetting this geometry right inside of our sketch. So we've just offset half the diameter of our probe. And again, just drawing with some of the standard SolidWorks tools. What we'll be able to do with this once we get the profile created is to actually then take and use our revolve tool and finish up this geometry fairly quickly. The nice thing about this is we have a perfectly revolved shape that was based on the information we captured from our part. A new tool inside of Dezignworks 10 is the ability to get a center point of a sphere. So here we're going to do a 3D sketch with a point and use a new sphere command. We could also do circle center and edge intersection. So we're going to go around this half sphere and pick up points, set of 4 points, and that'll give us the center point of the sphere that we'll also use again in a plane offset to do another lock plane example. Now the lock plane is used quite often to do some complex surfaces and get multiple surface cross sections that we can use as loft sections to create some complex geometry. You can see that in some of the other example parts on the Dezignworks YouTube channel as well. Now, this particular sphere we know is a half circle, so we're just going to take some points in our lock plane that are along the bottom edges and also across the top center, because we know that we're going to draw in a circle or an arc that's actually a center point arc to just give us our cross section that we're going to again use to revolve. Again, the benefits here is everything's native SolidWorks data, so we know that these points, we can reference them to create relationships to them when we build this arc geometry, and we can edit the sketch that was just created by that lock plane to put in SolidWorks geometry. Again, we may want to offset the arcs that are going to be created so that we get an accurate offset from our ball size. So here we're going to use a standard center point circle and create some relationships to those points, and then we'll go ahead and close off that profile once we offset the geometry the size of the probe. In Dezignworks, you're always working in conjunction with your SolidWorks. So as well as you know your SolidWorks, the knowledge you have of your SolidWorks tools is going to make the use of Dezignworks very, very easy for you as you go through and create your geometry, because you're basing the way that you would model using standard SolidWorks tools and just taking, again, the input from the arm and using that input along with Dezignworks tools to get the geometry that you need. The last thing we're going to do is actually create this angled cut, and we're going to do that by creating a Dezignworks plane. So we can create a plane inside of SolidWorks using Dezignworks tools, which will actually allow us to take 3 points on the surface and get that angled surface inside of there. So we know it's flat for one, and we know it's orientated properly because we've created it with Dezignworks. It would be very difficult to get that angled surface that is just positioned somewhere in space without having the use of the Dezignworks tool as we're reverse engineering this particular part. Now we're going to use existing edge geometry and the creation of a line using Dezignworks, and we'll go ahead and draw in some extra geometry and trim it up so that we can remove this material away from the part. Here we'll finish up this part with a few more commands. What you've seen in this video is the ability to reverse engineer entirely inside of SolidWorks, leveraging all of its features and the features of Dezignworks. This allows you to reverse engineer in a much faster and easier way.